For Chef Mike Nelson of GW Fins, sourcing seafood not only provides important information about the fish he serves, it's also a way to support fishermen directly.
What I consider sustainability is actually finding people, that's, the fishermen, the farmers, the foragers, who we work with who actually are doing it right.
This national expert on Gulf seafood has developed strong relationships with Vietnamese fishermen, dubbing them the unsung heroes of the Gulf fleet.
In Louisiana, we have a long-line tuna fleet, which has shrunk quite a bit over the last 20 years. These guys are majority of Vietnamese fishermen. These boats go out for anywhere from 10 to 14 days at a time. Typically, they're out there during the full moon, and that's when they catch all the swordfish. This literally is the best place in the world to find seafood.
At GW Fins, in the heart of the French Quarter, dry aging enhances the taste and texture of Chef Mike's Swordfish Chop with Black Garlic Bordelaise.
We take these really big primal cuts off of these massive creatures and we hang them in our dry aging cabinets. For swordfish, typically it's only going to go for about 11 to 12 days. But at that point, we've kind of released a lot of the moisture out of it. We've concentrated the flavors. We've concentrated the kind of texture of the meat, but at the same time, made it more tender and by far more flavorful. So what we're gonna do is just kind of give this a hard sear. The idea is just to try to treat it like you would a pork chop or even a thick cut steak. So today we're gonna serve that with a black garlic bordelaise. In New Orleans, traditional bordelaise here is pretty different than most places. It's basically parsley, garlic, and olive oil. In France and other places, it's more of a red wine and demi-glace, that kind of thing. So my recipe is kind of an amalgamation between the two. Black garlic is an ingredient not everybody's familiar with. It's garlic that's been fermented. It takes somewhere around 30 days or so to get it to this point, but it has this really caramely rich, almost a Worcestershire aroma to it, really incredibly deep, rich flavor, and that's going to be kind of the background of our bordelaise sauce.
Using swordfish and tuna scraps, the chef swaps seafood for meat in charcuterie boards and puts together seafood muffaladas.
We take the swordfish scraps and we make a pepperoni and what we call it a sortadella, which is basically a mortadella recipe subbing out swordfish. So the only animal products in here are all from the swordfish. Really great little dish, but when I tell you, you can't tell the difference between this being a traditional muffalata and one that's made out of swordfish, I kid you not, you can't tell the difference in the finished product. So we're just gonna put down our mortadella. This idea came from the idea that we don't wanna waste anything here in the restaurant. And as a chef, we really don't like to see anything to go to waste, and especially an ingredient as amazing as these swordfish, we're not gonna let any of it not get used. So, it's been a goal for many years, trying to get as close as I can to zero waste with our fish and our seafood program, and getting people excited about cuts of the fish that are not from the center of the fillet. So this is just an example of something that's really worked out well for us. It's a little provolone cheese on top. Pop our buns right there. We have a couple little skewers we can pop in there. Take our little muffalata sliders. And there it is, swordfish muffalata. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and cook this swordfish chop. All we're gonna do is hit it with a little salt and pepper. Something this thick, I think you need a good bit of seasoning on it. I prefer just to use straight butter on something like this because I want that kind of caramelized, crispy crust on the outside. So we're just gonna set that down. And kind of let it do its thing. It's gonna take a little while. Okay, while this swordfish chop is cooking, we're gonna go ahead and make the sauce. Relatively simple. We're gonna take some olive oil and that black garlic we talked about earlier with a little bit of fresh garlic mixed in there. We got some fresh thyme, we'll throw that in there. A little bit of salt and pepper. And now we're going to deglaze that with a little bit of red wine. Got to have the action shot. There it is. All right. Take a little bit of demi-glace. We're going to add a little of that to kind of allow it to thicken up a little bit. And now we're going to finish it with some parsley and some fresh chives. Turn off that heat. And as quick as that, we have my Black Garlic Bordelaise ready to go. So we're going to spoon that right on top of that swordfish. Speaking of swordfish, let's see how it's looking. Go ahead and try to give this a gentle turn. It's looking good. Got some good caramelization on there. Can't really rush the process with this, so we're going to give it a couple more minutes on that side. So for the dish that we're going to serve along with it, like I said, we have these white sweet potatoes. If you haven't used the Japanese white sweet potatoes, they're the ones with the red skin on the outside and the white flesh on the inside. They taste like somebody injected them full of maple syrup. They are so sweet. They are so delicious. If you haven't tried them, and a few people do grow them down in Mississippi. You can get them locally. They are fantastic. These are just Granny Smith apples that have been peeled and diced, and we just got some nice little baby Brussels sprouts. At this point, you know, you could roast them in the oven, but for time's sake, and we have a deep fryer sitting right here, we're going to drop them right in. This doesn't take long at all. I'm just trying to get a little bit of caramelization. That's about what I'm looking for. Take a little of that extra oil off of there. And all we're going to have to do with these, they got everything they need. Just a little bit of salt and pepper. And why not? You know, we'll throw a little butter in there just to boot. But okay. Well, I think we're ready to plate this up. It should only take a second to plate it up, and let's eat. All right, swordfish chop is good to go. Nice and caramelized on the outside. Let's take a look and see how it looks on the inside. Yeah, so that's where I want it. Just barely done all the way through. It looks perfect. All right, now take a little bit of our white sweet potatoes, apples, Brussels sprouts. That's a little bit of sweetness with this is going to go really great with this sauce. Take a little bit of apple cider gastrique, which is just apple cider and apple cider vinegar reduced down together to make a syrup. Kind of makes everything pop a little bit. So we'll take this swordfish. Let's lay it right on top of there. Fan it out a tiny bit. Here comes our Bordelaise sauce. Go ahead and spoon some of that right over. Give it a little bit extra demi-glace just to make this pop a little bit more. That's perfect. And we're going to finish it off with a little bit of fresh herb oil right there on the outside. And voila, that's GW Finn's dry-aged swordfish chop.
Louisiana Coastal Cooking, Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. on WYES New Orleans. Check local listings for your public TV station. Learn more at WYES.org.